recorded because they don't want to miss it. So I'm very glad you guys are interested in the Harvard class. Doesn't matter you work with me or not. Even if you don't work with me, I strongly hope during the summer you will use this wonderful time to work on the college level, the first year college level stuff. Okay, and this one is the one of the most popular class in Harvard, and they make it free. And you guys, I want your input. This kind of debate, this gave you opportunity to think about a lot about the social issues, and a lot of the moral dilemmas are very fun. And you are going to be the judge. You are going to be the jury. In this class, you are the judge and you are the jury. You have to make decision, and then you have to justify your opinion. So I want in 3 minutes, I want everybody's input in this moral dilemma. Listen carefully. And if you have any question, like Richard, Liang, you ask. Now we talk about a real story, something really happened.
In the summer of 1884,
this is a case that really happened.
4 English sailors were stranded at sea in a lifeboat in the South Atlantic, over 1,000 miles from land.
Thousands miles from anywhere. They are in the middle of the ocean.
Dudley was the captain, Stevens the first mate, and Brooks a sailor.
The 3 important person.
The 4th member of the crew was the cabin boy, Richard Parker, age 17.
Age 17, he's the youngest, therefore most vulnerable.
The crew had few provisions. For the first 3 days, they ate a can of turnips. On the 4th day, they caught a turtle, which sustained them for a time. But soon they had no food, and for 8 days, they ate nothing. By now, Parker, the cabin boy, was lying in the corner of the boat. He had drunk seawater and become ill. On the 19th day, Dudley, the captain, suggested drawing lots to determine who would die so that the others might live. But Brooks refused, and no lots were drawn.
Remember, he didn't draw the lot. He didn't go through the process. This thing really happened, okay? He refused to do that.
The next day, Dudley decided that Parker had to be killed. He offered a prayer, told the boy his time had come, and killed him with a penknife, stabbing him in the jugular vein. For 4 days, the 3 remaining crew members fed on the body and the blood of the cabin.
Remember, if you are a lawyer or judge, the day 23 is a very long time in the middle of the ocean. That's the important consideration.
Boy. Then help came. On the 24th day, a ship rescued the 3 survivors. Upon their return to England, they were arrested and put on trial for murder. Dudley and Stevens confessed that they had killed and eaten Parker, but they claimed they had done so out of necessity.
That's their defense. We eat the little boy and we killed him. It's out of necessity. If you are in the same situation, you're going to do the same thing.
Putting aside the question of law, how do you judge the morality of what they did?
Okay, everybody who is going to read this one for me? Richard. How do you judge? Now, you guys are all the judge. So I want everybody to write down your answer, your comment. How do you judge the morality of what they did? And if you are the situation, what you are going to do? And if you are the judge, are you going to kill them? Are you going to put them in jail? Are you going to set them free? So I want you guys comment, okay? Everybody participate.
Would you say they acted immorally?
Yes or no? Were they doing the right thing or the wrong thing?
In killing and eating the cabin boy? Or would you say that, all things considered, they did the right thing?
Oh, they do the right thing. So that's why you have to do the waiting. And you're the judge. In your real life, in the future, you have to do a lot of judgment. Maybe not just dramatic.
Sacrificing one life in order to save 3.
Okay, this is the moral dilemma. I want everybody to participate and write on the chat. And then I have the freedom to choose one of you to.
I'm changing my device, and then can I leave? And then I'm gonna join on my computer.
So everybody write a 3 sentences. What do you think? Wonderful. Hannah, wonderful input. You said, I think that it wasn't moral to kill the boy, especially without any warning beforehand. But I think that because they did it out of necessity, it was justifiable. And as a judge, I would not sentence them to death. So now you have a choice. Send them 20 years in prison or set them free. Now, keep on writing. Hannah did a very good example. She was working with me last year, finished the whole Harvard justice case, and also another course on rhetoric. So last year she finished 2 classes in her tender years of 7th grader. Okay, as a 7th grader, she did a wonderful job, and she gave me input. And she did a wonderful job also. She gave me the input. And can you do that? Richard, David, Patrick, Stephanie? Because this class, I want everybody's input. Logan. Now, everybody, when you listening to the next one, keep on giving me the input. Okay, OL, this class have to have a lot of input, and eventually I will divide you guys into 2 groups and have a debate. Moral dilemma. Every chapter there is a moral dilemma, and what we do, we read the real case. The next one we do is affirmative action. Like last year, Patrick did a wonderful job. I'm going to read his input. Stanley, good job. Now, Patrick, why don't you read your input? Go ahead.
I think that it was moral to kill the boy because if you didn't, everyone would lose their lives instead of just one boy. By killing the boy, you could save the lives of everyone else. As a judge, I would give them 10 years in prison because it is against the law, but not sentence them to death because it was out of necessity.
Patrick, you are using actually a philosophy. Utilitarianism. We are going to learn the utilitarianism. That is the most of the big companies when they fight a legal cause using that philosophy to justify themselves. One person's life sacrificed to save 4 persons. There's a whole philosophy to justify what they did. Doesn't mean they are right. Make sense? Doesn't mean they are right. But your input are very coherent. That's what I want. Okay, good job, Patrick. And Richard Liang, no, read yours. You can send it to all of us.
Oh, did I just send it to you?
Yes, you just send it to us. But go ahead, just read it. Oh, just say what you want to say. Go.
I feel like it's moral because the boy was probably gonna die anyways, even if like the crew didn't kill him. And the crew needed food to survive. And just like Patrick said, if they didn't kill the boy, all of them would die. So if you killed the boy, at least 3 people would survive. And I feel like it was justifiable that that they killed the boy, and so I would not sentence them to death.
Okay, so actually you are, I'm not going to tell you then because or else I will spoil it. There is a whole legal case in Britain, and we are going to read, if you dare to participate in the class, we are going to read the original lawyer's defense and the judgment, and also the justification, and then also the philosophical discussion. And next one, we do another moral dilemma that will affect each and every one of you, because eventually you will go to college, right? And whether you go to Harvard or Yale or UT Austin or community college, depending upon right now, the answer for this moral dilemma. And also now when you apply for a job, the Silicon Valley companies are making a lot of judgment out of affirmative action. It is justifiable or not. I want also you guys input. Listen carefully, and we are going to learn a lot about this case because it's related with you. And eventually I'm going to tell you about a wonderful case that happened in Sugar Land, Fisher case. This girl, Fisher, sued UT Austin because she's a white girl from Sugar Land, Houston, and she was denied to go to UT Austin. According to her, the judgment was because she's white rather than color. Make sense? So she sued UT Austin all the way to Supreme Court. That is what? That is the courage. So I want all the boys and girls, if you face any injustice, eventually inspired by this Harvard class, do the same. Make sense? Do the same. And I don't want a group of silent Asian kids. They are obedient, they are good, they are nice. Yeah, they do good work, but they are not challenge injustice. That's what I don't want. Now, listen to this one. I want you guys' judgment. This is a good group because you guys all participate very well.
In some societies, members of groups that...
In some societies, so some people have an easy life. I know some of you have an easy life. You guys have an easier life than me, right? So you can afford my class. Okay, so that's an easy life. But somebody have a harder life because of race or their family was poor, disability, a bad neighborhood.
Have suffered discrimination or social and economic disadvantage are given special consideration when they apply for jobs or university admission. Some people favor such policies on the grounds that they can help bring about a more equal society. Others oppose such policies on the grounds that they are an unjust form of
reverse discrimination. And this one is between black and white. You know, African Americans say what? We were slaves. Our ancestor was slave labor for so many years, hundreds of years, they will not get paid. And you guys all have a legacy. But here, the Asian kids like you guys face another discrimination. We will talk about it very soon. Okay, actually, I will ask you guys to wait a little bit and listen to a Harvard lawsuit.
First discrimination. What do you think? Is it just or unjust to give preference to applicants who are members of groups that have been discriminated against?
They used to get discrimination, but didn't Asian people get discrimination in the US history? Therefore, you need to know US history. Is the Asian kid be discriminated against right now in application for Harvard? Actually, there is a case also went all the way to the Supreme Court. So I want you guys to know it and read a lot of materials so eventually you can defend yourself. So let's watch a little bit of a very short discussion directly from Harvard, okay? Directly from Harvard. Harvard Eastern lawsuit. This lawsuit is a very serious one. There is a lot of report. We will discuss in a very big detail. See Fox, NBC, Al Jazeera, from Arab world, they talk about that. Is Harvard racist? Sought on the recent lawsuit against university. Let me Asian community against university. And here is a Harvard newspaper, Harvard students newspaper. I want you guys' opinion. This one is only 3 minutes, so it's pretty short. So I want your guys' opinion, even though you don't have enough information, but I will give in the future enough information. These are Harvard kids, their own newspaper, but I'm very mad they don't have an Asian kids here. They always printed the picture as black and white, but how about brown?
Harvard admissions as we know it, and affirmative action in the United States, is under fire. The college is battling a 40-year-old lawsuit that alleges it discriminates against Asian American applicants. The group suing the university is anti-affirmative action
Anti-affirmative action advocacy. That's the group. They are defending the Asian kids.
Advocacy group, Students for Fair Admissions, or SFFA for short. The suit has been quietly working its way through the American judicial system for years, but things heated up this summer after thousands of pages of internal Harvard admissions data became public in court, offering the public a long-coveted glimpse into how the world's top-ranked university selects its students. The fight will come to a head next month when the suit goes to trial. Harvard and SFFA will meet face-to-face in front of Judge Allison D. Burroughs in the U.S. District Courthouse on October 15th. Experts have said that no matter how Burroughs rules, the losing side is likely to appeal, and that the case will probably wind up in front of the nation's highest court. So
all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, because Supreme Court of the United States is the highest court. They interpret whether a law or government policy or even the president's rule is constitutional or not. They will affect each and every one of your life.
Keeping the stakes in mind, let's rewind. How did we get here?
SFFA first filed a lawsuit against Harvard in 2014.
That is very recent. That's a very recent case to fight one case from 2015 all the way to April 2018. For you guys, it's Asian history because you're so young. For me, it's very recent, okay?
Harvard in 2014, accusing the college of discriminating against Asian American applicants to Harvard, a claim it continues to assert today. Harvard then and now has repeatedly and unequivocally denied these allegations. For the first few years, the suit slogged forward and kept a low profile as Harvard, at the court's request, compiled mountains of paper evidence explaining its admissions process. In fall 2016, Harvard handed over thousands of student applications to SFFA lawyers. In early 2017, 4 of the nation's top high schools, including Boston Latin School, were subpoenaed as part of the suit. But none of that information became public. For a long time, only SFFA's lawyers were allowed to pore over Harvard's documents. That didn't sit well with SFFA. So as the year turned and the suit entered the first half of 2018, Harvard and SFFA launched into a bitter and public debate over what portion of the school's documents could or should enter the public domain. SFFA wanted to publicize a lot of the confidential documents, but Harvard, partly citing concerns over past applicants' privacy, wanted to keep everything under seal. In April, Judge Burroughs weighed in. She determined that a small portion of the roughly 100,000 pages of internal documents—
100,000 pages, how Harvard in the black box decide high schoolers' fate. They decide your fate, but in the black box. But this court opened them to the public. For the first time, you know how do they make decision. So that is very educational for you guys, okay? So in this class, we are going to discuss these kind of things. For example, another very good teacher, actually, she teach SAT, and she's very good at saying, have statistics. We will have statistics to justify when you do the SAT or ACT, you have to be several hundred score higher.
And other elite institutions are racist in their policies. So basically, we've long known that Asian Americans are held to a higher standard than those of other races when it at least comes to test
That's
scores.
why your parents are working so hard, even during the summer you are studying, because you have to hold yourself to a very higher standard. That's how the system runs.
And that's because there was a study that was released back in 2004 that actually was working with data from the 1990s. So this is like super old data by the
because they hide a lot of data. Listen to this statistic. Listen to the statistic. Look at this. You are African American. You have SAT, 230 points bonus. That means you just show up and you have 230 points, and every points count. You are Hispanic, you have 185, and if you are Asian American, you have 50 points penalty. Okay. But of course, if you are recruited athlete right now, right, Richard? That's why you guys are working so hard to be a professional athlete, right? You will have 200 points. But if you are legacy students, that means if your father, your grandfather was the Harvard graduate, or your great grandfather donated a whole building or $10 million, $1 billion to the university, you have 165 points or even more. So if this is justifiable or not, this is real statistics. This is a real statistic. That's why this legal course is important for you guys.
That would give you a 200-point bonus. Or being a legacy, which conferred 160.
And also when they judge the personal character points, Asian kids as a whole have the lowest score. You don't have to take any test. Your personality are low. Maybe you didn't, okay, I'm not going to say too much. Eric Yan, that's revelate. So now we already talk about, wow, I really enjoyed the participation. I will treasure all this class participation. Now, everybody participate. Ethan, you have no excuse. Now, you talk about affirmative action, whether justifiable or not justifiable. Is Harvard right in terms of the statistic I show you? No, I want everybody to participate. Because this class cannot go on without participation. Wow, this is a wonderful class. Richard, you can change it and you can talk to everybody. Stanley, now you read a lot of clear your input for the last case and think about this case, okay? Affirmative action. That means if you give 230 bonus points for a certain group and give a 50 points penalty for a certain group, like your group, is that justifiable? Why? Why yes or why no? That is a pretty tough question, right? Yes or no? Patrick, what do you think?
I think it's not just, because if you do that, then you're like discriminating against the people who aren't discriminated. Like if you give a job to like a black person instead of a white person, that's also discrimination.
Mm-hmm. So you should use the keyword. The keyword should be what? The affirmative action. So Hannah is thinking hard on this. You guys all have a wonderful input. I'm very impressed about this. And then we will talk about Chinese culture, Qin and Han Dynasty, Chinese history. Now, after you have all the input, Ella Wu, that is very good writing. Good job. So eventually, I will have 6 students in any class and divide you guys in the middle and have a debate team. Okay. I will assign a role for your group. So you have to become a lawyer, prosecutor, or lawyer, or maybe even judge. Now, what we are talking about is affirmative action justifiable. David, good job. Now, Richard Liang, now you read loud and clear your input.
All right, I found it ironic that the case you just brought up was something that I researched for English class this year on my paper. I literally wrote about this and I got my grade back just today, so I find it ironic.
Wow.
For my paper, I wrote about how it was unjustifiable, but I'm gonna like show both reasons, and I'm gonna say it's partially justifiable because schools like Harvard and Yale don't just admit students based on like SAT scores and like GPAs, but like outside variables such as like leadership roles and like community service. And I'm pretty sure you can like find a stat that shows like that Asian Americans don't participate as actively in like leadership roles compared to like other races, which is why like it's somewhat justifiable. But like it isn't justifiable for like schools to give like other races 150 to like 200 plus bonus points. So I'm kind of like in the middle ground right now.
If you were in my class, I will provide you with more ammunition, more facts, because as a judge or lawyer, you need a lot of deeper facts. And this case open a lot of kinds of worms, okay? The kinds of worm is they give you a score on your personality. And as a general, Asian kids have no very low personality. They didn't even see you. They gave you a points on personality. Isn't that itself is a racial discrimination? Just because our facial expression are not that full of emotions whatsoever, or the stereotype of facial expression in Hollywood, they gave Asian kids very low on personality. And you cannot define personality, a leadership role. What is the leadership? How do you know a young kids who decide you are going to be a good leader or not a good leader? Go to Africa and save the poor people there? How many of them are real? How many of them are fake? They start to see the NGO just for the sake to get into Harvard. I know personally many people do that. Okay, so you can put more statistics to justify your opinion. Okay, cool. Hannah, very good. Hannah, loud and clear. Read your input.
Okay, so I said that Harvard is not right in terms of affirmative action because descendants of people that have discriminated shouldn't have to take the fault for what their ancestors did. Also, as David mentioned, letting people in not because of their performance will just set them up for failure. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For example, Richard in St. John's, they are very good. They already discussing in the 9th grader, tender years of 9th grader, very deep question and debatable question. That is a very good project. Okay, that's a very good project. But in this class, we will dig even deeper and dig using the legal logic and dig into the legal system, especially Supreme Court judge argument. They make very good argument and they have exception. Not all the judges voting for a position. Some people working for the position, the majority, and then they have a minority opinion. So we will read both the Supreme Court majority opinion and minority opinion to see as a Supreme Court judge, how do you make an argument? That's why the private school are training exactly the same topic. And we are here not to make a decision, but to train you how to think and act and even behave like a Supreme Court judge. Make sense? That is the reason that Hannah endured last summer, okay, 2 Harvard course. I know I pushed you guys very hard, okay? I apologize for that, but I know I don't apologize for that. I'm pushing you guys to do your best to become the best you, okay? To become the best you. That's why we're doing this relatively very hard one. And another class I'm going to teach is China's first empire and the rise of Buddhism. That's the Qin dynasty and Han dynasty. The best teacher in the United States, non-Asian teacher, they spend their whole life to study about China. And some of them know more Chinese literature, Chinese history than us, because they devoted their whole life on that. And they provide you a very good perspective. As an Asian kids in the United States, you need to know what they know. So you can understand both systems, US system and the Chinese system, and become a good people who can understand the two thinking system. Okay.
BC.
Now we are watching this one that he's presenting how the Qin dynasty unified China. What's the strong point of this dynasty? What is the weak point of this dynasty? Okay.
The central states were all at war.
That is before the Qin dynasty unified China. How many? This is Qin in Xianyang, and a very big country called Chu, Yan, Qi, Wei.
Fighting one another and eventually reducing the number of central states to around 7 large states. The Zhou had been nominal king over all the central states.
The Zhou dynasty lasted for how many years? 800 years. Very long feudal system. And then the hundreds of small little countries fighting each other and become 7. And the Qin, a very backward country. How Qin unified China? How do they practice military power? What's their organization philosophy?
But its power now had become so diminished that even its nominal suzerainty no longer had any effect. And it became clear that the Zhou model was not working anymore, and that some alternative would have to be found if this period of warfare was going to be brought to an end. If we look at the situation as it existed at the time, who would we predict would be the winner in an attempt to conquer all the other states?
So basically all the small countries trying to unify China, all of them are doing their best. So every year at that time in our Chinese history is a warfare.
Well, most of us, I think, would look and say it's the great state of Chu in the south. But in fact, that was not the case. It was Qin in the west, beyond the passes. Qin, which rose in an area in which the Zhou king had abandoned for the east because he was being pressed by barbarians. Today, we want to talk about how Qin rose, the way in which it rose.
So in this class, we talk about how a very weak state that started from a territorial that's been abandoned. How do they unify China? They accomplish something that almost sounds like impossible.
And the consequences it left for China's history.
And then when the Qin have the power, how do they rule? And why they are such a great power in terms of territorial, military force, and how do they use law? How the Qin find the path to the law, to power, from being weak to strong. And then of course, then you will have the test, okay? See, I did several times and finally got it right. For who is going to read this one for me? Ella Wu, you read it. So I did it for you. No, you read the test you're going to take if you take the class.
Why did Shang Yang suggest to Qin that it abandoned the Zhou administrative system?
Yeah, let me explain to you. Shang Yang is a great legalism, not professor, scholar. Okay. If you think about Hitler's position times 10, that is Shang Yang. How to rule a country. Very harsh law. And I used to be the last century, way before you guys was born. Read the original book of Shang Yang in the classical Chinese literature. It's a very interesting time. Okay, interesting time. Now, how did they answer? Ella. C.
Do I read it?
Yes.
He found the Zhou system too incapable of mobilizing resources.
Resources, what is mobilizing resources? That you make every male and female in your country contributing to the warfare, contributing to the conquest. That's the mobilization resources. And he thinks the Zhou administration, which Zhou administrative system lasts for 800 years. They are very inefficient, but they have some reason they last for 800 years. And how many years Qin dynasty last? 2 generations. 2 generations. Very short time, not 800 years, not even 100 years. Even though Qin emperor, he thinks his empire will last for 10,000 years. Okay, no empire lasts for 10,000 years. How to mobilize the population? To do what? Warfare and unification of China, to have a very efficient system. So eventually you will study them and you take that assessment test. So during the summer, it's not an easy one. See, I'm even making mistakes. So we will go through them together. And then you will do the multiple choice and you have to write and participate. So it's where practice you guys writing. And I will also, of course, organizing the class, a debate team. You guys will do debate. Every issue, for example, Qin's unity and the first emperor of China. First emperor of China last till now is 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago, but his personality still affects China right now. And whether he's a great emperor or he's a dictator or he's a violent person, of course he's a violent person, but is he a good to the human history? Or he's very bad for the human history? Why? That is very debatable. So now listen to this very short introduction. And I want you guys each write me 1 or 2 sentences, 3 sentences. What's your impression? You cannot make judgment right now because you don't have enough information, but you can write your summarization, okay? It's a wonderful presentation. Qin's unity and the first emperor.
The Qin conquest takes place through the 3rd century and is completed by 221 BC. It takes its system of government and places it on all the other states. it moves the nobles from those other states to its capital. It gathers in the weapons of their armies and melts them down to create statues. Imposes a
So what he's trying to do, he will destroy, when he conquered all China, he destroyed all the weapons from civilian, like a gun control. Okay, we also have a gun control debate, right? Hannah, we have a gun control debate last year for the Harvard class, rhetorical class. Yeah, now we think about Qin Shi Huang was doing that 2,000 years ago. But of course, the government will keep the best weapon system.
Tripartite system of government across all the states that is conquered, of civil administration, military administration, and overseers who keep track of what the civil officials.
So civil administration, these are the officials the emperor sent to different provinces and even every county to manage people, and also very important thing, collect taxes, collect money for the central government to hire officials, and also a very big, strong military. And the military administration and overseers are basically the emperor's spy. So we'll talk in very greater detail about each and every branch of government.
Officials and military officials are doing.
This is very different from the U.S. Constitution, right? We can even do a comparison. We can compare the two systems.
As that all states institute a single system, which will have common standards across the board. All the roads will be the same width. All walls will be the same height. Everyone will have a common currency. By this point, the writings.
You think I have a common currency? What is a common currency? Let me ask somebody. Let's ask somebody. Logan, what's the common currency we're talking about? You study economics, right? Business with me, private class. What is the common currency?
Everyone will have.
Everyone will have a common currency. Loud and clear, Logan.
Everybody uses the same currencies, and like everybody in the whole world. If United States common currency was the United States dollars, so then they use one currency.
Do you think the Europeans have a common currency? Yes or no?
Kind of, yeah.
Europeans have a euro right now. It takes many wars to produce a common currency in Europe. Just think about World War I and World War II. And still that common currency are very weak. It takes Europeans several thousand more years, they barely achieved a common currency, and it's still very unstable.
A common currency. By this point, the writing system was beginning.
The writing system. And you know how hard to write Chinese character, right?
To diverge. Qin says there will be one script, there will be one calendar, one road system, one set of standards of weights and measures. Across the board, things will be unified. Those who object, those who look to the past for alternatives, well, Qin is the first dynasty in Chinese history that we know of to burn books and to bury scholars. Not necessarily Confucian scholars, but scholars who looked to antiquity to provide a counter model to the Qin model, who looked to the Zhou rather than the Qin. He was now the first emperor. He creates a new title for himself.
Okay, we're talking about everybody writing this down. It will in your high school test. And in college, you have to study that, especially when you do AP classes, okay? Qin Shi Huang. He's such an important person. He still affects the world, especially Chinese world, the whole world.
Goes through the land, and stone monuments are erected celebrating his achievement. And let me read from a monument erected 2 years after the unification in 219 BC. Great are the emperor's achievements. He attends to what is basic. Farming is encouraged, not trade and artisanship. The common folk do prosper, as all under the heavens are bound with a single purpose. Tools and measures made uniform, writing made the same. Wherever sun and moon shine, As far as one can drive and sail, men carry out their orders, thus to realize their desires. Our emperor is in accord with the times. He has regulated local customs. He has made canals and divided the land. He has cared for the common folk, working day and night unresting, setting laws, leaving nothing to doubt. He has made known what is forbidden. The universe entire is our emperor's realm.
Okay, I want everybody to write a small description and if you can, a little bit of a comment of the first emperor of China. Now, I want everybody to practice in here, you practice your writing. You force you to think very concisely and clearly. That's how I organize this class, okay? Try your best. The most important thing is we use the highest level of education possible in the United States. Give you guys exposure and demand the highest input from you. It's almost like a physical exercise, right? Some of you are athletes. You know, you have to train yourself, but you have to have a higher standard and you have to have a good example. The professor is probably the smartest person in the United States, and they prepare this class very well. Before COVID-19, it was not open to us. Now it is open to us, and we all know how bad, you know, the school system for the last 1.5 years. And you guys know better than me, but I heard so many complaints from my students and parents and teachers. But now we have the opportunity to learn from the best. And I have studied this one forever. So I would like to share with you guys. Eric, good writing. Very good. Now, Eric, read for me loud and clear. I really enjoy your writing.
The first emperor of China wanted to create a dictatorship, but was also looking out for the interest of the general people. He created an environment by which everyone followed his way. This is why the people liked him and praised him for his work.
Congratulations, Eric. You should share with everybody, but it's very good. So there's a lot of room for debate here, right? So people praise him. But for example, the documentation the Harvard professor used is definitely praising him as a god, as a supreme being. But is that true? Then in the class, we'll also talk about if he's so great, why his dynasty lasts so short. And we are also going to learn the critic. We are also going to learn the critic of Qin Shi Huangdi. Okay, so we will judge both ways. Doesn't mean what you say is wrong. I will provide you more argument to make your argument stronger. Make sense? Good. Good job. So I want everybody to participate. So you're not wasting this wonderful opportunity. So this is actually forcing you to think. I'm really afraid to pronounce your name wrong because some of my students, if I pronounce their name wrong, they hate me for that, for good reason, right? Miss Xiao, can you read your input?
Okay. So I said the first emperor of China was a harsh leader. While he ruled strictly, people all worshipped him because he seemed like a god. He was confident his dynasty did not last long and created oppression among the people.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ella, you read yours. You should share with everybody, but you're sending it only to me. Therefore, you read loud and clear for the whole class to benefit from your input.
Okay. Qin Shi Huangdi was the first emperor of China and claimed his dynasty would last for thousands of generations, but he ended up being the only emperor of the dynasty. He created the Great Wall of China to prevent invasions, but it wasn't finished till many dynasties later. He seeks the best for his people, but his dynasty didn't last for long, and when he died, he was buried with terracotta soldiers to protect him on his way to the afterlife.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good job. Good input. Good input. It's interesting, right? So it's not as boring as you imagine at first. Okay, so I will finish this class soon, and so eventually you have to give short responses. They give you a question, you answer the question, you answer it. For example, you will read a lot of information. For example, Sima Qian on Qin Shi Huangdi. Sima Qian is the greatest Chinese historian. His book is a must read, and a lot of your parents read Sima Qian. And even translated in English, these are wonderful literature. They are both English, they are both Chinese history, right? But also the best part of Chinese literature. So we are going to talk about Sima Qian's understanding of Qin Shi Huangdi, and many critics. I think why we are studying these things, it's very hard stuff. History lasted 2,000 years ago. Why we want to study what happened in the Qin dynasty in China? Hannah, try to answer that question. I'm giving you a hard time.
Well, I think in order to learn from their mistakes, obviously, and not repeat them also.
Good
like
job.
in
Those
history,
who
people
don't
have
read history repeat the mistake. Good job.
yeah, that's what I was basically saying. And also like a lot of old historical cities have like really intelligent ideas. Like I'm not sure which city this was, but there's this one city, I think it is like Greece or something, like with the water systems.
Oh,
And
Dujiangyan, you are talking about from Sichuan province. Dujiangyan, your parents mentioned that to you. Yeah, the water system, how to manage, is actually did by the Qin dynasty, during the Qin dynasty. Okay, so they improved agriculture. Qin dynasty trying to make the dynasty better, but maybe or maybe not, they perform the contrary. And why we also want to learn Chinese history is that it's a very complicated system and very different from the US system. So you will learn the diversity of different cultures, and also when you dig very deep, you're learning from the best. The best Chinese history out of China was done by Oxford University and Harvard University. Okay, two, one is in London, the other, in Massachusetts. Their writing on Chinese history there has been research about that and published to the world from the end of the Qing dynasty. So that's why I think it's my moral obligation to share with you about my understanding. In order to prepare this class, I finished all the course in Harvard University about this course from the Qin and Han all the way to Tang Dynasty, all the way to the Ming and the Qing Dynasty, and also I finished all the course in Beijing University, how the Chinese system teach Chinese history and compare how the American system teach the Chinese history. So I would like to have the opportunity to study this one with you, with Hannah, for example. We'll have fun together, okay? Exactly like last year, we have a lot of fun debating, arguing. I'm providing you guys with ammunition to attack me or attack each other in the process, not physically, but mentally. In the process, to train your brain to think deeper, at the end, your soul will run deeper. That's the aim for both the legal class or the history class, to make your soul deeper, more refined. That's the reason. Okay, I enjoyed the class, the time spending with you, and I want each person